Red Dead 2. Who hasn't heard of this game by now? In fact, going into this game, it had been long spoiled for me that Arthur Morgan was going to die at the end. But I still found myself so emotionally invested that I had nearly cried seeing him die. And that's one of the main positives I have about this game. The story and characters are so good that even knowing what happens to the gang, I was still emotionally invested enough to see how each character's story would end. Arthur Morgan is probably the best main character I have had the pleasure of playing as in any game. I'm sure some of you have been playing a game or watching a movie and the main character or side character makes what's supposed to be a funny joke, but you just don't even laugh and roll your eyes at. But with Arthur, it's the complete opposite. Whenever Arthur is happy and laughing, I also feel happy and even chuckle at some of the jokes being made. And when he is sad, I also do feel sad with him. Which leads me to my next point. The dialogue is amazing and honestly carries some of the missions. This is a bit of a complaint here in my positive section, but with the missions, what ends up happening a lot of the time, which is especially worse before you get fast travel, but you spend forever riding through the world to get to the start of a mission, especially if the start of the mission's far away from where you are currently. Then you have a chat with whoever the mission is for in a cutscene, which is fine. Then you get back on your horse to ride where the actual mission is happening, like where all the action's taking place throughout the mission. Now, that would be a big complaint for me if the dialogue on those horse rides wasn't so good. I guarantee any of you, if it wasn't for that good dialogue, this would be a huge complaint in all the other everyone else's reviews, but it's only a very small complaint here. Now it's time to get into the negatives of this game, which isn't really very many to be honest. Most of my complaints come from the game leaning a little too heavily into realism. I do actually like how realistic the game is, like when the horse's balls get smaller in the colder areas and bigger in the hotter areas. But one of my main complaints about the realism is the horse somewhat has a mind of its own, which if any of you have ridden a horse in real life, you'll know that the horse itself does have self-preservation. So it won't let you ride it off a cliff at 100 kilometers an hour or into a tree, which it does in Red Dead 2. There is some gameplay system there that is meant to help you ride around trees, I think. But a lot of the time it fights against you and you end up just hitting the tree anyway. I also found going down some hills on my horse would just refuse to go down them and was acting like it was the edge of a cliff when it was just like a somewhat steep rocky hill. Another complaint I have about the game is picking up a body or a bounty if there is another body next to them, which I will admit isn't an issue unique to Red Dead, but because the game has such long animations for everything to make it look realistic after you pick up the wrong guy for the 20th time, it starts to get annoying having to walk away, put the wrong guy down, walk back and pick the correct guy up. It's also a bit of a complaint with looting too. The animations are really long, so if you're picking up a lot of stuff, especially when your satchel's completely empty at the beginning of the game, it just takes forever to fill it all up. Like I said in the beginning, Red Dead 2 is an amazing game, and those negatives I mentioned are really only very minor complaints. I'd honestly give Red Dead 2 a 9.8 out of 10. It really is that close to being a perfect game. Well, anyway, those are my thoughts on the game, so yeah.